All right, get a loser, we're going healing. Do you ever look at yourself or even look at somebody else and think, why do I shut down when things get real? Or why do I emotionally spiral when I'm trying to express myself? Why do I keep sabotaging love, friendships, or peace when I say that's all that I want in life? You're not doing it because you're like cold or you're emotionless or you're just not an affectionate person. Because as human beings, everybody has emotions, okay? It's just the circumstances that you were placed in from childhood that made your brain believe that it wasn't safe to grow up in like a healthy way. There's this part of your brain that's called the prefrontal cortex. It's basically responsible for all of like your decision making. This part of your brain also handles emotional regulation and long-term planning. This part of your brain does not usually mature, like fully grow or fully develop up until you're 25. But this part of your brain, in order for it to develop properly in like a healthy way, it needs consistent safety, healthy conflict, validation, a calm environment. And then when it hasn't had that kind of environment, it's not going to develop at 25. It's going to take much longer. For example, if your childhood was filled with things like emotional neglect, walking on eggshells, like the constant chaos in households, shutdowns, being forced to grow up too fast, there's no room for you to cry, there's no room for you to express your feelings or to be heard and validated for your feelings without punishment or without being shamed for it. So guess what that does to your brain now that you're an adult? Your brain has adapted to that ever since you were a child. It rewired itself for survival and not necessarily for connection. So now when you get into a relationship, you have this idea in the back of your mind, I have to survive in this relationship. I don't have to necessarily connect, like healthy connection. You didn't learn to regulate your emotions because nobody validated you for them. You learned to attach to people when they got close, or you learned to disappear or to avoid if they hurt you. And so now as an adult, you say things like, oh, I'm just not like an affectionate person. I don't do confrontation. I don't do emotions. I don't do feelings. I like to solve things on my own without burdening other people. I push people away when they get too close to me. And you know what's really happening is that it's just your nervous system protecting you. Your nervous system is still stuck in that phase of that 7-year-old being a child that never learned how to regulate emotions or how to deal with emotions in any other way. And this is not necessarily because you're weak. You were just never taught what safe love feels like. So, of course, your body is still going to act like emotions are threats when they're not. Because, again, it recognizes these emotions as danger. Because if you do express your emotions, you're not going to be validated for them. So, you were just taught how to survive love. This is the mindset shift that you need on this. You're not emotionally unavailable. And it's not that you can't do feelings. You're now just healing a nervous system that thought that love was danger. Healing is the process of giving your brain that safety that it needed growing up, that it never had, so it can finally grow into who you're really meant to be. Name your patterns without shame. Like, tell yourself that you were just trying to survive. Don't shame yourself for acting through these wounds because it was never your fault. Just take the action and say to yourself, I don't need to live like this anymore. I can now rewire my brain. You need to regulate your nervous system and your emotions, okay? You need to talk and be around safe people. People that make you feel safe and that validate your feelings and your emotions, that don't shut you off. Don't think that you can heal by being around emotionally unavailable people. You need people that will make you feel validated for your emotions, so emotionally available people. Let your nervous system learn the difference between what is calm and stable energy and what is chaos. Sometimes it doesn't know that difference. And when you do have let's say, emotional breakdown, or you feel some sort of anxiety because of you feeling those emotions, you have to be fully honest with yourself and ask yourself, notice the emotion and be like, what part of me is scared right now? Not in a judgmental way, but in a curious way, because you're trying to understand yourself and your emotions. Validate your younger self, your childhood, your inner child. You did what you had to at the time in order to survive, but now you don't have to survive anymore now that you're an adult. You can now start living because now you have the power and the control over your life. You can choose different because you deserve different. You deserve to be happy. Love was never meant to be earned. It didn't always have to come with conditions. You are allowed to become emotionally available. You are allowed to trust in yourself again. You are allowed to give your brain now that peace that it never had. And by the way, healing is not about becoming like this new person. It's just about being who you always were all along, but you were just never allowed to be them. But you just needed to feel safe enough doing it. You know, you needed to be accepted for doing it, for expressing the real you. This is you reclaiming your power as an adult, that you chose to not dwell in self-pity and not dwell in victimizing yourself, but rather reclaiming your power and choosing to rewiring your brain when nobody else did it for you.